Hmm. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Smason, and welcome to NOLA Theater Talk. This is part of the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, and we broadcast on the also the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, as well as tonight on the NitaZita.com page, and also on my own Music Lovers 169, which is my own Alan Smason YouTube channel. This evening, we are very, very pleased to have with us one of the foremost playwrights in New Orleans, a person who has garnered quite a number of accolades, two-time Obie Award winner, and I would like to think that she's one of our favorite daughters as opposed to a favorite son, but she is going to tell us all about her own, I guess, history and where she started, etc. But we wanted to also acknowledge the fact that that we have her in the studio tonight. So we're going to pretty much get things started right now. And let me just bring in, if I may, let's see if, of course, everything goes right when you want it, right? Anyway, here we go one more time as we add our banner. And Nita D'Amour. And
hello.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And
great to be here.
I have been after you to be on the show for a little bit. Telling you that this is something that we've been doing for several months now. And I apologize that we were a little bit late tonight, but you got to mix those cocktails and get them right, or you're in trouble. And I did want to let everybody know that I do know how to spell my own name. Sometimes I get it wrong, but so trying to get everything on the fly. Now, Lisa, you're a native New Orleans, as I mentioned. You grew up in what area?
Harahan River Ridge.
Okay.
So maybe it's not. Some people would say,
no, I would say
native.
No. Matter of fact, you've got a 701 zip code, don't you? So there.
Well, I live around the corner from you now.
I know. But that's a 701 too. But no,
yeah.
What I'm saying, I think.
Oh, that's what counts as native if you have the 701.
701. That's
okay.
It.
Good.
so
and
anyway.
Also, just to be really clear, my nativeness I really attribute to my mother, Todd D'Amour, whose her family goes back 5 or 6 generations, and she grew up in the Bayou St. John area, and then they moved out to Gentilly. And but really, the first 10 years of my life, I did not live in New Orleans. My dad was getting his graduate degree and teaching at the University of West Virginia, and we were visiting New Orleans.
Oh.
Many
All right. Well,
times a year.
We accept you. You've been here so long that we accept you as one of
our own. And I feel like the whole story of the first 10 years of my life was, when are we getting back to New Orleans? And then by the time I was 10, we were back. So.
I should tell anybody who's interested that if they want to leave a question or a comment tonight, that they need to go to StreamYard.com. That's stream like a stream out in the babbling brook kind of a thing. StreamYard, all one word, .com/Facebook. That will allow your name to appear in our comments. So I know, like last week, we had a comment that was from Claire Conti. Well, we didn't know it was her because she didn't go to StreamYard.com/Facebook to get permission. So it just said user. So so we want to let everybody know that that's going on. And tonight, again, we're talking with you because you represent one of the creative forces behind the play that we're going to present. I should say a multimedia presentation, not just a play.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Monday. So we're going to have a slideshow. We're going to have videos. Plus, the actors are going to connect with one another like they normally would on a stage. But this is a fantastic opportunity of Nita and Zita. We're going to talk about that because now this was a creation that really started with you. I know it was before 1999, right? It was around
yeah,
there?
It was a really interesting confluence of events. So I was getting my graduate degree at UT Austin in playwriting. And this costume designer that was studying there, who had ties to New Orleans, came to me and said, there are these 2 sisters who were burlesque dancers that I'm obsessed with. They're long dead, but they lived in the Bywater, and all of their costumes and furniture are in thrift stores in the neighborhood. And I have some of their pieces, and I have this picture of them. And she showed me this picture of these two sisters, Flora and Peroska Gellert, better known as Nita and Zita. And they were sitting side by side with these giant peacock headdresses on and just kind of looking into the camera like this. And it was at that moment, I was like, oh, we have to make a play about them. And it was almost like they were looking through the postcard to me.
Is that the black and white? No,
that is the poster. That's the photo you've been using. Yes, that's it. That is the photo that started it.
Wow.
And so I already was really good friends with Kathy Randels. And we decided to start trying to research them. But they were very reclusive. They lived on Dauphine Street in the Bywater, right near the intersection of Franklin. And but we caught them, I want to say it was like 6 years after the youngest sister passed away.
Yeah.
So they were circulating through New Orleans through their costumes, through their furniture, and through stories told about them. But there was nothing in writing. I think we found a couple of ads for times they performed on Bourbon Street. So part of making the show was trying to find out who they were and hitting brick walls all the time because we couldn't find out the real story. And so we wound up weaving that into the show, that we were artists obsessed with them and they were only going to let us know this much. So it was quite a New Orleans adventure.
It was. Now, again, I should mention, as the editor of the Quest City Jewish News, at that time I was writing for the Jewish Civic Press, but I believe I ended up doing a story about it because of the fact they were Jewish.
Yes.
They were immigrants to the country prior to the rise of the Nazis, et cetera. So
yes.
they had actually arrived here as other immigrants had, looking for opportunity, et cetera. And, it was interesting that I didn't actually know at first that they were, but it became apparent to me that they were later on.
Yeah, well, they're buried in Hebrews Rest.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I know it's listed because they have three different ones. It's Hebrew Rest #1, Hebrew Rest #2, and Hebrew Rest #3. They're probably buried in #1, more than likely.
I think so. Yeah, it's on Elysian Fields.
Yeah, right. And there's two of them that are off of Elysian Fields. Probably #1 because they still had people back at that time, who would have bought plots, etc. So it's very, very kind of interesting. Now, as you know, Lisa, one of the things before we continue on Nita and Zita is we always have a drink. So I'm not sure what you brought in, but I can tell you I made a special. You watch me make a Vesper, which I've had on occasion from time to time, which is gin. I guess you might say 2 ounces of gin, an ounce of vodka, and then a half of an ounce of what is it? I'm fleeking.
Lillet. I watched you watch it.
Right,
yeah,
Lillet. And then you add a little, what do you call it? A little zest in there. So there you go. What did you bring?
I just have sparkling rosé in an insulated glass, which feels very New Orleans to me.
Well,
because you got to keep it cold. Yeah.
So again, when you started off, I believe that you had Anne-Liese, is it Juge?
Yes.
Who was with you. And of course, Kathy Randels, you mentioned, of course, who's phenomenal.
And I know you
dancer.
saw that early version.
I did.
Yeah, at the old Zeitgeist on Aretha Castle Haley.
And I was captivated. I really, I believe I saw it a couple of times. I think I saw it when you brought it back again, maybe the CAC. Is that possible?
So there were several. Yeah, that early version was like a work in progress. And then we kept working on it and we did 3 presentations. The first was in a cabaret space in the State Palace Theater on Canal Street. And there are some great stories about putting the show in there. And then we brought it to the old Southern Rep at Canal Place. And then we did it at the CAC.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember where. I know I saw it more than once, and I know the one time I saw it with Anne-Liese, and another time I saw it with Katie Pearl, right?
Yes, Anne-Liese was a part of the development and early work, and then she had some life changes and had to move on, but has been a huge supporter of the project.
She used to be associated very closely with Southern Rep, if I'm not mistaken, right? Wasn't she working with Southern Rep a lot?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Right now she just started. She's a theater professor at SLU in Hammond.
Oh, very nice.
And she just directed something at Loyola last season. You Can't Take It With You, I think it was.
I saw that, and yes, I believe it was George S. Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I actually got to see that on TV. They made it into a big movie with Lionel Barrymore and a whole slew of people. And I thought that was very well done. The movie is just about as frenetic as the stage play, but Loyola did an excellent version.
I'm sure.
And by the way, if anybody hears that, that's your bird, right? Making those noises? Isn't that a bird?
You know, that's either the bird or the child. It's not. It's my partner's child. I think she's gaping, but there is a bird.
Okay. I thought it might have been a bird. So let's take a look real quick at Nita and Zita. And while we're not going to show any of the video tonight, because we're going to reserve that for the show on Monday night, we want everybody to know you can see the show right here if you're a member of NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, or right here if you happen to just go to the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, or right here at nitaandzita.com, or right here at the Alan Smason Music Lovers 169 YouTube channel. Any of those 4 outlets, you'll be able to see it. And of course, afterwards, I will rebroadcast it on my Facebook page. So if you happen to be a friend of mine on Facebook, you also get to see it. Or a friend of a friend, you can share it that way as well. So
Alan, I just want to say it's nitaandzita.org.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
nitaandzita.org. Okay. There we go. Let's take a look real quick at some of the this is Katie Pearl. This is in the later iteration, but this is and I guess that's up. It's right side up, but they look like they're upside down a little bit. But again, you created that whole concept because of the zany kind of I guess you might say special effects that they would do on tables and on walls and things.
Yeah, you
polka dots, huh?
See that in the curtain behind there. They painted all of their furniture in these spider web patterns, red with silver spider webs, and then a lot of their wallpaper they would add these wild polka dot patterns. And these 2 costumes are inspired by original Nita and Zita costumes, and you can kind of see there's cutouts on the knees, and if they were standing up, you'd see they're also cut out on their bellies, and those long sleeves actually come off. So in the show, they have several different looks.
They were sort of contortionists and acrobats. They had a very unusual act, right? I mean, it wasn't a straight acrobatic act. It wasn't a straight contortionist act. They combined different things.
As far as we know, and the Piroshka, the younger sister, was the flexible one, the one that did more of the acrobatic tricks. But it seems like, we know that they performed on cruise ships and in vaudeville houses. We think they performed in the Blue Room at the Roosevelt's, and we think they performed on Bourbon Street, and maybe at a bar in the French in the Bywater. But so much of it is kind of hearsay and stories. We're not completely sure. But it seemed like that was like novelty, exotic dances. So
yeah, and again, I've got a couple of comments that came in too. I know Janet Shea says she's right here. Great to see you.
Great.
And again, if you need to put your name down instead of Facebook user, make sure you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. That'll allow us to see who it is that's making their comments. But hello back to you.
And of course, Janet Shea was in Airline Highway.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to all of that.
She was amazing.
Tell me a little bit. Nita and Zita was obviously the first thing. We're going to get to that first. But there are a couple of other things that will be coming up. I had a couple more of the shots. Now this is again Katie Pearl and Kathy Randels.
Yes.
Now, is there anything special? It looked like they were sort of painting each other.
Yeah, so that's kind of an homage to the way they decorated their house with these polka dots, and it kind of inside and out. And there's a section of the show where we kind of tell more of the story about that. So that was, we use these, and if you can see, the paintbrushes have glitter on them. So,
of course,
because the thing that was so amazing about them is, you know, a lot of their artwork happened after they had retired from dancing, and they would make these, you know, their street clothes were a very unique design. They would buy clothes from thrift stores and repurpose them. They would take, like, rip off the bottom of a skirt and turn it into a pattern at the top. Often they would, like, adapt the sleeves so they had, like, points at the bottom of their hands. And so they were really like haute couture. And that was part of their entire style. And a lot of people thought they were twins. And they didn't speak much English, so they would walk from their house to Schwegmann's, R.I.P., and in these, like, kind of matching or really beautiful, elaborate outfits. And so this sense of style and artistry and presentation continued long after they stopped dancing.
Well, you know, again, typical New Orleans kind of couple, though, don't you think? I mean, you know, they set their own pace and their own pattern. They decided what they wanted to do. They lived in their own space, and you know, they were the masters of their own destiny, as it were.
Totally. And for me, it just, as a female artist, I just felt like two women, super talented women, who just, like, they couldn't stop creating. Like, the creative life force in them just kept coming out in any way that it possibly could. In a time when there weren't a lot of outlets for them to be visual artists or professional dancers. So it's kind of amazing what they pulled off.
So how did you discover, I know Kathy Randels was a dancer. How did you discover Katie? Was she involved? How did she get involved with the project?
I met Katie when I was living in Austin, and I knew her more as a director. And I was studying to be a playwright, but was also very interested in outdoor site-specific theater. And I heard through the grapevine that she was too. And so we started making pieces together, and were very obsessed and kind of in a beautifully creative, workaholic way making our work. And when Anne-Liese had to leave the project and we wanted to continue, I said to Kathy, I really think we should bring Katie in as the performer, because I knew that she had the artistic sensibility and the work ethic that would allow us to make this great. So,
well, obviously, you know, we see the picture there, but you know, they both have the very thick accents of East European, and I know they're supposed to be Hungarian. I think that's probably close to what they're supposed to be. You know, it comes across as a true immersion in terms of their acting, in terms of their dancing. All of that just all comes to the fore. And of course, you're directing this particular piece, multimedia presentation. So we should tell everybody it's starting at Monday at 8 o'clock Central Time. And for those of you who have not seen it before, it has not been presented in New Orleans in what, 15 years?
That is true. That is true.
So for a while it was being presented. Now, tell me a little bit before we go on to any of the other pieces that you've done. How did this New Orleans group of ladies, okay, get transported up to New York? Because it did. What was you know, the contributing factor there? How did you manage to get it mounted, and how did you convince people that this was going to be something worthwhile?
You know, it was sheer force of will. I was living in New York at the time and was starting to build my career. And I had a really good relationship with an off-Broadway theater called Here Art Center. And they were very interested in what they now call hybrid art, like plays that also bring in music. And this show, when you see some of the video, there's almost an installation feel to some of it. So Here is really dedicated to emerging artists, and we basically worked out a co-production deal with them where they rented the theater to us at a reduced rate and helped us with publicity. And it was at a time in New York when there was a real resurgence in the burlesque scene, a kind of nouveau burlesque. And so we actually were really able to get a great audience to come in it was a very short run. But, you know, it wound up with the right people coming. We were able to get the Obie Award, which
Well,
is
that's what I
super
was about to
exciting.
say. I mean,
Yeah.
you must have done really well because you not only got to get an Obie Award for yourself, but also your other partners who produced it too.
Yes, that was so important to us that it was an Obie Award for the whole group because it was such a collaboration, this piece. I mean, I wrote the final words, but it all came out of a process of us experimenting, trying out different ideas in the rehearsal room. So, and I think that's part of why, and it also included a big collaboration with Sean Hall, who was a visual artist who has lived in New Orleans for many years, who did the sets and helped with the costumes. And so it was very much over the course of those 5 years as we toured the piece, we kept refining and changing and perfecting it as a group. So,
Well, again, I urge everybody, you know, this is not all going to be about Nita and Zita tonight, but
mhm.
I urge everybody who has not seen it or those who have remembered seeing it, you know, in the past, to please come by this coming Monday right here where you're watching right now to see it in all of its splendor. And this is going to be a different kind of production because for the first time, it's going to be virtual. Number one, the two actresses are going to actually be in different rooms, as it were, performing,
Mhm.
and to give you that feeling of being together. And then also you've got the slideshow and the videos, and all of that is going to all be integrated into it. So again, I hope that people will show up for that.
Yeah, what we decided to do is because so much of the show are these really awesome dances, we're going to show video from the 2005 production of the dances and then switch to current Kathy and Katie performing in their separate rooms in New Orleans and Connecticut. So it's there's a lot going on. It's going to be great.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, so tell me. I know that you had a number of other projects that you were involved in. You mentioned that you were up in New York. Were you working on any particular plays before you got to Stanley? Because I wanted to talk a little bit about Stanley too, because that I know didn't actually
Oh,
take place, but I wanted to find a little bit more about it because people who know about Tennessee Williams and know, of course, about Streetcar Named Desire, this was sort of an homage to Stanley Kowalski, the
mhm.
character. I wanted to find a little bit more about that because even though it didn't actually get finally produced, but it was a great deal of effort on your part,
Well,
from what I understand.
It did get produced, and we did it. Did you see it in New Orleans?
I didn't get to see it in New Orleans. That's
Well,
why.
we did one or two shows as part of the Art Spot Productions 20th or 15th anniversary. Maybe 10th. Anyway, we did do one or two shows, and we did a run of the show in New York City. The show was called Stanley 2006, and it was a collaboration with me and my brother Todd D'Amour. And Todd, some of you watching may know him, the amazing New Orleans performer,
Yes.
who is obsessed with both Streetcar Named Desire and Marlon Brando's performance of Stanley. And so this piece has a really interesting origin. I wanted to do a piece with Todd. I found that he was getting cast in New York at the time in really like plays where he was acting from the head up. It was very static. And Todd's a great mover. So I was like, I want to do something where my brother can like show off that he's actually a great dancer. And we started thinking about how tortured Marlon Brando was and how complicated the character of Stanley was. And we started kind of making this piece that was almost like, what if the character of Stanley, after like going through this insane event of raping his sister-in-law and getting kind of, what if he like left the play and was wandering, basically racked with guilt? Now, while we were exploring this idea and getting ready to present it in New York, along comes Hurricane Katrina. My brother Chris's house gets wiped out. Many family members are like dealing with houses that are gone or flooded, and our whole city is in grief. And there was no way that we couldn't bring that idea into the show And so the piece was a very non-linear exploration of this character and the idea of like grief and loss and holding things or letting things go. And we performed the show at Here Arts Center and discovered as we performed it that the Tennessee Williams estate, even if you're not using lines from a play, even if you're not taking sections from a play, they just don't even want you to do anything with those characters. So they filed a cease and desist order and asked us to stop doing the show, which we did. We did the show to the end of the run, but then we didn't tour it after that.
So do you think that today you'd have the same kind of a problem?
Yes, I do. Yeah, even though I'm, on the board of the Tennessee Williams Festival,
right?
And
That's
a big supporter.
One of the things
but
I was
that's
thinking
very
about.
Separate.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, this gets into the nuance of copyright law, and right now, I think the estate is still very protective of those characters, and a lot of it has to do with money and their idea of what Tennessee Williams' legacy is. And I respect the estate. I love Tennessee Williams. I think that the way that they are so strict with how the material is used does like hamper the creative life of the plays themselves. But what can I do? There's nothing I can do.
Well, no, and so it did get a little bit of a run, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Now in New York, where was it produced in New York?
At Here Arts Center, an amazing.
The same place that you had done Nita Zita.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same. They had two theaters at the time, and it was in a different theater than the theater space, but it was same theater. Yeah. They're amazing. They were huge supporters of my early career, and they're still going strong. I mean, they're at a pause right now because of COVID, but they're supporting so many emerging experimental artists. It's really great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's so much that should be working right now on the boards, and everything is shut down. And so we understand that it's just an unfortunate situation with everything. I'm hoping that it'll come back soon, but we don't have anything to base that on. We just have to just hope and pray that this particular pandemic will end sometime soon, and that maybe things will improve. So now there was that sounds a little loud. There was another piece that you were doing around that time, right? As well before Stanley. I'm trying to remember. Was it 10,000 Cuts or something? I'm trying to remember the.
Well, there were a lot of shows I was doing before Stanley. Some of them were with Pearl D'Amour, and some were just plays. So I'm trying to think of what was going on in New Orleans. I was doing shows in New Orleans and New York before Stanley. One of them was, I'm trying to think if I worked with Artspot before Stanley. I think it was mostly just Nita Zita at that time, but there's a play of mine called 16 Spells to Charm the Beast that was produced by Clubbed Thumb Theater. And then another play called Red Death, which was an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's Masque of the Red Death that was also produced by Clubbed Thumb in New York. And they're another smaller theater that still is around, that is very much around presenting adventurous work by emerging writers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you when you work in New York? Where do you stay? Where were you staying at least at that time?
Oh, at that time, anybody's couch that would have me. Way back then. But then I've had a couple of different phases in New York. When I was living in New York, before I owned a home in New Orleans, I lived in Bed-Stuy. And I had an apartment in Bed-Stuy, which is in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Gotcha. And again, Brooklyn is a little bit different. Usually when I end up staying in New York, I'm in Chelsea, or I stay in Midtown, but that's pretty much it. And of course, it's so different. I was just seeing some pictures of my friend Katie, who lives up in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. I had no idea how beautiful some of that area is there as well. Because I always think about New York as just concrete and buildings and glass, etc. You know, I never really think about it as having, you know, real, you know, ponds and places that you can, you know, camp out, etc. You know, just yeah. So I guess I have to do some more exploring in the boroughs other than Manhattan.
Yeah, give it a shot.
And again, is there a part of you that you know, feels you know, like that's part of your home there? I mean,
oh, definitely. I mean, you know, I really feel like I live in New Orleans and New York.
Yeah.
And it used to be pre-pandemic, what I used to say is I'm in New Orleans a third of the time, New York a third of the time, and God knows where a third of the time. Because the life of a freelance playwright and educator, which is what I am, you're taking guest speaking spots in California, or you're teaching a workshop over here. And so it was, in order to just piece together the finances, you were traveling a lot. So it's been very strange now because I've been spending a chunk of time in New Orleans in this pandemic, and then a chunk of time in New York. But really, it doesn't matter where I am because it all happens like it's happening now.
And so, another person who generally put a lot of his time in between New York, etc. There you go,
Brian.
One of your very good friends, Brian Batt. Now, did you actually connect with Brian?
I met Brian really in New Orleans. Yeah, I met Brian more through the Tennessee Williams Festival. We haven't worked together on a larger project. But yes, he's doing such great work for the Williams Festival. And I just saw all those commercial spots he did for the New Orleans airport, which are really awesome. Yeah.
Well, you know, he's really great. And you mentioned, you know, your connection to your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And congratulations. We finally got you in here.
I can't believe it.
All through this time, you know, Todd was in the. I always test everybody's connection out the day before or whatever. And he was actually in the room that I tested him in, instead of being in the room that we, you know, I sent him the link to.
Oh, that's funny.
He didn't check tonight's email, so he'll get.
Lisa knows where I am, actually.
I do.
Is it not a secret?
It's not a secret. That's like our family shared home. Oh, it's so good to see you.
You've been working out on the house. You said you were.
Yeah. In fact, we were just joking because, like, my cousin Gay, she came today, and we were leaving, but I waited to meet her because
come see.
We're fixing an old shop here, and I was just on the roof, and I've got like bamboo scratches all over me. But we do have an artesian, well-fed pool and pond that I just jumped into before I make myself ready for Mr. Smason here. So I'm clean now. I'm clean. I'm no longer. I don't have dirt in my fingernail.
Well, we're awful glad to have you here. And now you're gonna you're gonna get a little echo if you take those things off. So be careful.
I just wanted to say hi, Todd.
Hey, fam. I was a surprise guest.
All right, so who's that?
This is Fitz, my boyfriend, who is a Tony Award-winning sound designer.
Oh, this is all part of the Airline Highway family right here. This is the Broadway Airline Highway.
Amen, brother.
Well, which brings me, of course, to Airline Highway. And again, I now am going to depart just a little bit to bring some of the pictures out from that as well. And if I may, Todd, well, Detroit. I'm sorry. You know what? You know what? That's what I meant.
Oh no, wait! But that production of Detroit, I could not do because I was doing Airline Highway on Broadway. So there it is.
That's exactly. So there's that's the local production that we did of Airline Highway. We had to wait till 2016 to see this, right?
Yep.
That's a New Orleans production.
That's a New Orleans production, and it was at UNO, a joint production that you did with the University of New Orleans Theater and Film Department. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. That's we got some UNO students in that picture there who worked with us. It was a great cast, awesome cast.
And again, before that, as I mentioned, another Obie Award winner was Detroit. This is the one that we did the season before at Southern Rep, and I know that's Kristen Wittershine and Mike Harkins and I'm trying to remember the other two.
And Jessica Podwell.
No, I don't think, was that Jessica?
Jessica, well, you know, they had to actually swap out halfway through the show because Jessica had to leave the show.
Yeah.
So she did play it, but then I think they switched.
Wow.
I think that, this is the other person. And there was another, the guy, the fellow there with the tattoos, etc.
Yeah, he came into me. He was great. I heard. I didn't get to see him, but I heard he was awesome, Kenny.
So,
it was a great production. One of my favorites.
Detroit got you all kinds of acknowledgments, and again, I like to call them the neighbors from hell. You know, you know,
and it would have been a Pulitzer Prize winner if it weren't for like it was like a race year, a race play, a beautiful play. I mean, like, but I'm a big fan of Detroit.
It was a finalist though for a Pulitzer Prize, correct? It was a Pulitzer Prize finalist though.
Yeah, it was a runner-up.
Yeah. So you know what? Anytime a work gets nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, it obviously is doing very well, and you know it's got a lot of panache, whatever you want to say.
And it was up against good company, but it was still feel I'm a big fan of my sisters, and I'm a big fan of Detroit.
I can tell.
And I did get to see Todd performed in Detroit and Colorado.
Yeah.
And you performed in Airline Highway as well. How many weeks did you perform? That was the Manhattan MTC, right? Manhattan.
But you know, we. So the beautiful thing about it is that Steppenwolf, right, commissioned Lisa to do Detroit and then Airline Highway, and so Airline Highway was second, and they were like, well, who, you know. We kind of want to work with Joe Mantello. We're looking for a project. He read the script. He loves it. And Steppenwolf was like, Lisa, you know, what do you think? And Lisa was like, has he ever been to New Orleans? And, you know, she was like, you know, he could have all the pedigree in the world, but he's got to know what it smells like. He's got to know what it sounds like. He's got to know what New Orleans is like. And he went down. I was doing Detroit and Colorado, and so I didn't meet Joe then, but. Mom, I took him to the side at like a backyard barbecue pool party. It was like, our son, my brother's a great actor. He's like, really? And he went and he found the one arm Tennessee Williams one arm audition on YouTube. He dug deep, found that crazy old audition, and he was like, your brother, Faith Boy, and he chose me for the first reading at Steppenwolf, which. To me, that was my first. I mean, I read it. Lisa sent me the script, but man, to be in that workshop and Steppenwolf early on was a total dream come true.
Well, you know, it must be nice to have a talented sister to write parts for you like that.
Ridiculous. we and of course, as we talked about yesterday, we did a test. We spent 3 years working on a piece called Stanley, and the reason. That came to be Lisa. She was always so supportive. She came out. I was a part of a Commedia dell'arte theater and we were teachers too in Italy. She came and watched me play Harpo Marx. She came and watched me play Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton. And she was like, you're such a physical actor. I want to write something for you where people can see your physicality, because you're not going to get in downtown New York City. You're going to get the weird, edgy, dark parts and some just the intelligence. The downtown New York theater stuff. You're not going to get anything that focuses specifically on your physicality. She started writing. We both agreed. We love Randels. We love William. We started, and then Katrina hit. And so it became a 3-year project.
So tell me, I wanted to have you in when you were starting to talk about Stanley. What do you remember about doing Stanley? You said it was a very physical role, right? Very challenging?
Very, 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 very. And Lisa worked me out. We would go into the room and she would.
And you know who we can blame for that? We can blame Kathy Randels for that, because Kathy went to study with Da Theater in Belgrade, this very physical theater company. And she kind of taught me their physical training, which is almost like gymnastic training. Like, it's really intense.
It's like gymnastics mixed with kabuki, mixed with like all of that. It's rhythmic. It's intense. It's
So I put Todd through the ringer.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what. After Airline Highway was at UNO, and they had the opening, etc. I did get a chance to visit afterwards and congratulate everybody. And I did get a chance also to take, I think, my favorite picture. And there you go.
Oh,
Oh my God.
that is amazing.
So of course that's your mom, Tay, and Todd, and her son and her daughter, and you, Lisa. Again, it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. But I know in your heart still. But what a wonderful. She was so resplendent that night.
That hat she's wearing, she wore to opening night on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, I know that she enjoyed
picture,
being there. It's all her. Now we just had a little comment from Janet Shea. We heard from her, but this was your mom and Janet too.
Yay!
Oh man, what a great shot!
Yeah,
love her. Those two together. I love it.
You can't go wrong with those.
No, that's beautiful. Love that picture. Just love it.
So again, I got a few more shots from the show. I know this was another family shot there, and there you are with Amy.
Yes, and oh my God, I'm totally blanking on his name. He's just auditioning. He went up and auditioned in New York for Juilliard, NYU. Completely blanking right now. It's terrible. I'll think of it as soon as we move on.
That cast was so big. I feel like I'm still running into people that I didn't know their names.
Totally. And yet, it's really doing those students. Oh God, I can't believe I'm blanking. But yes, amazing. Because that was the beauty of it. Was that how do you do it on highway? Well, you how do you do how do you get this party scene? Well, you team up with the university and you get a bunch of students to be the party.
But I mean, you had some other wonderful people. I mean, this is one with Janet that we mentioned. There's Lance, who was so good, and Zardis. Now, of course, Zardis was watching. I don't think she.
She was watching.
She was watching Lance do his thing. And again, was Christine McMurdo Willis in this? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
So she was in it as well. There she is with Lisa.
She was incredible. Out of the park like that. Now, scene one monologue.
I know that you had some other people in here. This was Monica Harris.
Yeah.
And that's
Paul Werner.
Paul Werner, who's visiting there with his.
He's in the road crew too.
Well, and I was in a writers group. Two things. I was in a writers group with Paul when I got out of college and came back to New Orleans. And it's one of the reasons I'm a playwright is that the CAC, when it was run by Julie Hebert, had a twice a month writers group that we could kind of go to and share our work. But in that photo that you just showed, he's holding a book of poems by Danny Kerwick, who was the inspiration for the character of Francis. And Danny would come, he was a New Orleans poet, and he would come and sell his books of poetry at the show. So.
Yeah, well, I know that because I actually had a picture or two.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Maddie and Danny.
And I know he had actually passed away not that long ago, right?
Yeah, it was. In fact, it was 3 years ago because I just saw we did a second line for him as part of the Midsummer Mardi Gras. And Danny, every Mardi Gras, would make these big bishop's hats that would honor a musician that passed away that year. He would wear them on Mardi Gras Day. And so when Danny passed, we all got together, and I turned my garage into a crafting room, and we all made bishop hats, and then we marched in the Midsummer Mardi Gras parade with pictures of him on our bishop hats.
And of course, in the play, he did not play himself, but Thomas Francis Murphy.
Yeah.
How fortunate you were to have him. What a great actor he is as well.
Oh, and a fantastic human being. I love him dearly. He's a phenomenal actor. Love him. Great.
So, and I think I might have covered most of everybody. The only one I think picture that I still have existing that I have to go out and put up for the most part is one of you and
Oh,
May.
Love
Nice
it.
picture there, and there was one other picture of one guy that I'm not sure if you know who this guy is, but he'd been trying to get pictures with Lisa that were good, never did, never was successful, and always were blurry. Finally, finally, somebody took a good picture.
What is that
So-
shirt? What shirt are you wearing? What is that?
What's that?
What is that shirt that you're wearing?
That's my Crescent City Jewish News. That's my that's my yeah. So anyway, Todd, I want to thank you for dropping by.
Yeah, it was great.
What a
made the
great
evening
surprise!
complete.
Because I've been trying to call him all week.
I know.
and he won't call me
We were
back.
gonna have to catch up last night. I know. We're gonna have one.
But anyway, I really wanted to thank you for being here because it really did make it complete. It is a family affair in the D'Amours,
It
you
is.
know, and
Without a
you know,
doubt.
again, I know there's more coming, and that
We will. Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more
Lisa,
about that.
Beth, and Jay say hello.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Tell
Alan,
Beth
thank you so much.
Tell
Thank
Beth
you.
we love her dearly, and we hope to see her on stage soon, as we all hope to be in the audience sometime soon. All right?
Yes, I will. I will.
All
I
right.
will.
Thank
Love
you.
y'all
All
both.
right. Love you
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.
All right.
Thank
well,
you for that.
It's just
That's
the
an
two of
awesome
us now.
surprise. That's great.
So, you know, again, I know you haven't been sitting on laurels in the last, few years, et cetera, and I'm certainly not doing anything. But what are you doing right now? What are you working on now as far as a project? Anything you can talk about?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple of things. Well, you know, I had, like so many artists, a premiere postponed. It was supposed to be in September at a American Repertory Theater in Cambridge. And, you know, Katie, who's in Nita Zita, we have a long history working together, usually with Katie as director and me as playwright. And we tend to work developing on projects for several years, and then we present them. Sometimes they're outside of theaters. This particular show was built for a theater. It's called Ocean Filibuster.
Oh.
And it was commissioned by the ART Theater and the Harvard Center for the Environment. And they were collaborating, trying to get artists to make shows that help people connect to environmental issues. So, so this was like a solo show with music in which the ocean finally gets to stand up for itself. And so that show is pretty much finished. We don't know when we'll do it in Cambridge, but right now we have a tour date in Houston in March. So we hope to do it then, but everything's a little up in the air. But we're always kind of tweaking and evolving the text. And then there's a lot of video design that we're still working on. And then I'm just starting working on a piece. There's a theater in Houston called Catastrophic Theater. They're an amazing small theater. They've been around for about 20 years.
Aptly named for the times that we're enjoying now, right?
It's true. And they've produced 3 of my plays in the past, and they've asked me to write something new. So I'm kind of playing around trying to figure out what that might be. And then in addition, there's a collaborative project that 5 playwrights are working on here in New York. Actually, one's in California, where there's a monument in Lower Manhattan called Federal Hall. And it's it was the seat of the US government before it moved to Philadelphia. It's where George Washington was inaugurated,
Right.
and where the Bill of Rights was ratified. And now it's a memorial. And Federal Hall wanted to write a play for tourists to let them know kind of what were the major events that happened there. And so they brought together 5 playwrights, myself, Bruce Norris, Melissa James Gibson, Larissa Fasthorse, and Tanya Barfield, to write a play together. And 3 of the playwrights are white, 1 is black, and 1 is Native American. And so we've been collaborating, trying to figure out how do we tell the story of the birthplace, or not birthplace of America, but first Congress of America, in a way that honors the complexity of where we are now. So it's been really interesting working on that together. And I think the hopes was to do a test run of the show in the fall, but I think that will be delayed. So,
would this be patterned after what Hamilton did? That you'd want to encourage people of color to be involved?
right now it's a mixed race cast for sure. Yeah, but it's actually more of a show that moves around the memorial, and it's meant to be happen like during the day when tourists are present, and it tries to tell the kind of stories of the major events that happened there, but also see them through the lens of today. So it's not a musical. It's like a shorter 45-minute play for tourists. So.
Right, and I understand that they come in, see the play, and then move on, go see the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah,
right?
and so it's hard because that's the reality, and also
Right.
it's a lot of international tourists, some of whom
Yeah.
don't speak English. So you want to. The reality is they are on their way to other monuments, but it's also a very complex thing to talk about. So it's been an amazing collaboration with some really smart writers. So
After Katrina happened in 2005, everybody said, a lot of material here. We're going to have playwrights who are going to be writing. Okay, so now we are in probably the worst financial crisis we've experienced since the Great Depression. And all the theaters are shut down. There's no sports. People are inside. They're having to wear a mask outside. Tell me, have you come up with anything to write about?
No, I'm not about to do
it's a very interesting time for playwrights. It's we don't know what theater is going to look like when we're out of this. We don't quite know what the world is going to look like. I also think it's a time when a lot of white writers are wanting to step back to make as much room for writers of color as we can. And so it's hard to know, like, as a white writer, what are the stories that need to be told right now from my perspective. So it's a crazy time to find the focus as to what to write about, I think. But I am writing. I'm writing on a lot of I have several different play ideas, and I'm writing a little bit on all of them. And I'm kind of waiting to see like which one is going to emerge as important, because I don't know right now. So,
well, I guess that brings up, you said the thing of it is that there haven't been that many women playwrights, in the last few decades too. I mean, we've had several prizes that have been established to encourage women, playwrights. I think the Ruby Prize is established.
It's great.
The Francesca Primus Prize that the American Theater Critics Association has. That's a $10,000 prize, as well as the Ruby Prize, both $10,000. And of course, we've had several people who have won the Steinberg Award who are female writers, playwrights as well. And
a lot of women have won that.
$25,000 prize. So
I think it's more, because I won one of the Steinbergs, but I think it's more than 25.
No, well, it's 25,000, and then the two runner-ups you get 7,500.
Oh, there must be. You know what? There's several Steinberg.
There's another
awards.
Steinberg, I think, that, as well as that they have, like, maybe not for new plays, but something else. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, there's the Steinberg Playwrights Award. And one year they give the Playwright Award to two kind of emerging writers, and the next year they give the Distinguished Award. I won one of the Emerging Writer Awards several years ago. But yeah. I do think there's more and more representation among women writers, especially off-Broadway. Not as much on Broadway, but Broadway is such a weird beast. And so I'm feeling much better about female representation in the theater world. So.
And you did mention, the situation, obviously with Black Lives Matter and more emphasis on perhaps Black, Indigenous, and mixed people, et cetera. Do you think that that's going to, when we open up the theaters again, be critical to the openings? Is it going to be something that we're going to be coming back and forth again? You say that you might actually take a seat backward, that to allow other people to come forward?
Well, and I think it's a combination of theaters making it a priority to program people of color and Black and Indigenous writers. And I think that for the white writers, I don't know that I'm going to try and take a step back whenever I can to make room for those voices. but I'll also hopefully be writing plays and sending them to theaters. And I think it's just going to be interesting to see how theaters program their whole season in terms of trying to create a rich tapestry in their season. And none of us know how that's going to work, but I really hope that when the theaters open, that we, see that most of the plays that are being produced, I don't know, I can't put a timeline on it, but it would be amazing to see it be more Black and Indigenous writers than white, because for so long it's been the other way, and there's so many amazing writers and so many different ways of telling stories and so many different structures to explore. So it's only bounty for us all. And it who knows, it may feel like to some white writers like we have to step back and wait our turn, but really it's a gift, because it's all new. It's pushing the field forward. It's evolving in aesthetic. But in terms of what to write right now and what is important to write, I don't have an answer for that, for me personally. So I'm just trying to work on a couple of different new ideas, and I'm drawn to what gives me pleasure and what feels like it's relevant to me right now, and then we'll see where it all lands. So.
And again, I hope that you can explore the rich texture that we have down here while you're stuck in New Orleans and not up in New York. That maybe something will strike you, because we do have such a wonderful resource of material. The people, the food, the environment all resonate. And makes I think one of the reasons that Tennessee Williams was so in love with this city was those aspects of the culture that made it a warm and somehow unique place for him to expand his artistic talent. And I know that even though you're up in New York, that New Orleans is a place that is much in your heart.
And I'll be in New Orleans all fall. I'm in New Orleans as much as New York, and I love writing in New Orleans because it's my spirit home. And it'll be interesting to see because Nita Zita is set in New Orleans, Airline Highway is set in New Orleans, Stanley was very New Orleans focused. So it'll be interesting to see what my next kind of New Orleans focused play will be.
I kind of think this is like, in those areas in France where the painters go, to paint because the light's right. I think that the setting for New Orleans is just right for writers. We've had so many writers who've experienced even people like O. Henry, who've been here as reporters, etc. They were writing, they were doing their thing, and it affected them as well. So I think that there's so many people we could list, so many great Southern writers and great people like who've come down here to visit and been enchanted. And rather than mention any particular ones or leave anybody out, I just say that it's a great spot to write. And again, I'm so happy that you're here.
And I just want to say too, before we wrap up, that I was so happy to see Katrina's Path on here last week, I think, right?
It's still available. We can.
Yes.
I talked to Rob Florence tonight via text, and we're going to keep it up through the Katrina weekend. So those of you who hadn't seen it.
But just an amazing group of New Orleans actors, including Janet Shea and Troy Bechet and Troy Poplis, and just really a great New Orleans story.
Two of the characters were my own cousin, Sidney Smith and Rudy Rasmussen, who played themselves. And of course, Wilbert Williams Jr., took on one of the roles as well. So, I mean, fantastic cast. Again, Nita and Zita, just so everybody knows, Lisa was one of the people, who wrote this, but Lisa and Anne-Liese and Katie Pearl and of course, Kathy, all of them will sort of be represented, although Katie Pearl and Kathy Randels will actually be Nita and Zita. Going to be directed by you, Lisa. That'll be this Monday, 8 o'clock Central Time. And we hope that people will join us and, take part in a little theater, because it really is a unique experience to see this show, a multimedia presentation. We hope that everybody will be with us. And again, I want to thank Lisa D'Amour, Todd D'Amour earlier for dropping by to be a surprise guest. And all the people who made comments tonight, including Janet Shea, thank you for being out there and making us feel welcome. And again, so for the NOLA Theater Talk Show, and again, you're watching this on the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, on the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, on nitaandzita.org, and also on my own Music Lovers 169, which is my YouTube channel, Alan Smason, if you look it up on YouTube. All of those are available to see these broadcasts, and it'll be the same on Monday night. You'll be able to see it as well. So, again, thank you very much for being with us. And again, I'm just going to ask you to stick around for a little bit, Lisa, and I'm going to try to do my best to say goodnight to everybody. Again, Nita and Zita on Monday night. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Todd. And I'll see you, ladies and gentlemen, at the theater.